You now have a crushing advantage over 8% of the workforce. I'm talking about dropout losers like Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, and Mark Zuckerberg. It's tough out there, so be patient. The only people hiring right now are Panera Bread and Mexican drug cartels. But enough, this is not a time for grim prognostications or negativity. No, I came here today because, believe it or not, I actually do have something real to tell you. 11 years ago, I gave an address to a graduating class at Harvard. I have not spoken at a graduation since because I thought I had nothing left to say. But then 2010 came. And now I'm here 3,000 miles from my home because I learned a hard but profound lesson last year, and I have to share it with you. In 2000, I told graduates, don't be afraid to fail. Well, now I'm here to tell you that though you should not fear failure, you should do your very best to avoid it. Nietzsche famously said, whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. What he failed to stress is that it almost kills you. Disappointment stings, and for driven, successful people like yourselves, it is disorienting. What Nietzsche should have said is, whatever doesn't kill you makes you watch a lot of Cartoon Network and drink mid-price Chardonnay at 11 in the morning. Now, by definition, commencement speakers at an Ivy League college are considered successful. But a little over a year ago, I experienced a profound and very public disappointment. I did not get what I wanted, and I left a system that had nurtured and helped define me for the better part of 17 years. I went from being in the center of the grid to not only off the grid, but underneath the coffee table that the grid sits on, lost in the shag carpeting that is underneath the coffee table supporting the grid. It was the making of a career disaster and a terrible analogy. But then something spectacular happened. Fog-bound, with no compass and adrift, I started trying things. I grew a strange cinnamon beard. I dove into the world of social media. I started tweeting my comedy. I threw together a national tour. I played the guitar. I did stand-up, wore a skin-tight blue leather suit, recorded an album, made a documentary, and frightened my friends and family. Ultimately, I abandoned all preconceived perceptions of my career path and stature and took a job on basic cable, with a network most famous for showing reruns, along with sitcoms created by a tall black man who dresses like an old black woman. I did a lot of silly, unconventional, spontaneous, and seemingly irrational things. And guess what? With the exception of the blue leather suit, it was the most satisfying and fascinating year of my professional life. To this day, I still don't understand exactly what happened, but I have never had more fun, been more challenged, and this is important, had more conviction about what I was doing. How could this be true? Well, it's simple. There are few things more liberating in this life than having your worst fear realized. I went to college with many people who prided themselves on knowing exactly who they were and exactly where they were going. At Harvard, 5 different guys in my class told me they would one day be president of the United States. 4 of them were later killed in motel shootouts. The other ones briefly hosted Blue's Clues before dying senselessly in yet another motel shootout. Your path at 22 will not necessarily be your path at 32 or 42. One's dream is constantly evolving, rising and falling, changing course. This happens in every job, but because I have worked in comedy for 25 years, I can probably speak best about my own profession. Way back in the 1940s, there was a very, very funny man named Jack Benny. He was a giant star, easily one of the greatest comedians of his generation. And a much younger man named Johnny Carson wanted very much to be Jack Benny. In some ways he was, but in many ways he wasn't. He emulated Jack Benny, but his own quirks and mannerisms, along with the changing medium, pulled him in a different direction. And yet, his failure to completely become his hero made him the funniest person of his generation. David Letterman wanted to be Johnny Carson, and was not. And as a result, my generation of comedians wanted to be David Letterman. And none of us are. My peers and I have all missed that mark in 1,000 different ways. But the point is this: it is our failure to become our perceived ideal that ultimately defines us and makes us unique. It's not easy, but if you accept your misfortune and handle it right, your perceived failure can become a catalyst for profound reinvention. So, at the age of 47, after 25 years of obsessively pursuing my dream, that dream changed. For decades in show business, the ultimate goal of every comedian was to host The Tonight Show. It was the holy grail. And like many people, I thought that achieving that goal would define me as successful. But that is not true. No specific job or career goal defines me, and it should not define you. In 2000, I told graduates to not be afraid to fail, and I still believe that. But today I tell you that whether you fear it or not, disappointment will come. The beauty is that through disappointment you can gain clarity, and with clarity comes conviction and true originality. Many of you here today are getting your diploma at this Ivy League school because you have committed yourself to a dream and worked hard to achieve it. And there is no greater cliche in a commencement address than follow your dream. Well, I'm here to tell you that whatever you think your dream is now, it will probably change, and that's okay. I've told you many things today, most of it foolish, but some of it true. I'd like to end my address by breaking a taboo and quoting myself from 17 months ago. At the end of my final program with NBC, just before signing off, I said, work hard, be kind, and amazing things will happen. Today, receiving this honor and speaking to the Dartmouth class of 2011 from behind a tree trunk, I have never believed that more. Thank you very much and congratulations.
Okay. So what are some of the things he said? There are few things more liberating than having your worst fear realized, right? One's dream is constantly evolving. Disappointment will come. The beauty is that through disappointment you can gain clarity, and with clarity comes conviction and true originality. So in sum, what's worse than unhappiness is disappointment. Now, how you handle the disappointment is really key. But you can't, because we're going to see, you just can't avoid disappointment. And there's two kinds of disappointment. Oscar Wilde was famous for this. He says there's two problems with life. Sometimes you don't get what you want, and sometimes you do. Meaning a lot of the things that we really want are not what we thought we wanted when we finally got it. So disappointment is debilitating, as he showed you, right? Sorry, this is the quote here. But here's the interesting question. Okay, so unhappiness is bad. Disappointment is the pits, right? What's worse than disappointment? This is where you get to engage. Okay, go ahead.
Not having expectations.
What's that?
Not having a good expectation.
What do you mean?
Or not having hope. Giving up.
Giving up, very good. You guys are sharp, right? What's worse than disappointment? Low expectations. Right? You kind of said the same thing, right? The giving up, right? No hope, low expectations. And this is the problem. You see, disappointment is debilitating. And people can tolerate unhappiness, but they can't tolerate disappointment. Very few people you will ever meet are unhappy. They're not unhappy, they're disappointed. Right? That's most people. Human beings are built to be unhappy. If you're just unhappy, you're doing fine. Right? It's good to be like ecstatic, but that's not the norm. The norm is to be unhappy. I know it sounds kind of crazy because we lump it all together, right? But it's important to break it up into its component parts. Disappointment is what really people complain about. That's really the killer. But what's worse is low expectations. And this is really important because disappointment is so debilitating. People try to avoid it and they fall into the disappointment trap. And the way they do that is to avoid disappointment, they try and have low expectations, thinking they're going to have no disappointment. Right? The problem with that is what's worse than low expectations is death. Because that's what will happen. Right? If you've ever been into God forbid, into a cancer ward in a hospital, the reason it's like so debilitating is the feeling you get is so down is because everyone's got low expectations. It's the same thing as a nursing home. Right? They know where this is going and no one's excited. And put it differently, if you tell a cancer patient they've only got 3 months to live, even if that's not true, that might just kill them just knowing that. Because low expectations will kill you. The opposite is also true. High expectations get you very excited, gives you more life. So this is what people do. Right? This is a sort of map. I didn't draw this, right? This is a sort of map of like, you could sum up people's lives, right? We have this blue bar of expectation, and invariably the outcome is the yellow bar. And whatever's missing, the disappointment, the gap is the disappointment. So people think, oh, I figured this one out. I know what to do. I just lower my expectations to match the outcome. But when you do that, this is what happens. But it's actually worse than that because the lower you make your expectations, the less motivation you have. And the worse it gets. So it just keeps going down and down. It's like an old joke about a guy who buys a horse, right? And he's a Wall Street analyst. And he never owned a horse, right? So the farmers on the horse tells him, like, you know, how you deal with horses, that they need a bale of hay every single day. And this guy's an analyst. He went to Harvard. He's like, you know, I don't have to listen to this guy. I know what I'm doing. But I'm going to show him, right? And every day he would lower how much food he gave the horse. Right? And he's posting it on Facebook, and he's got a blog and a Twitter, and it's like he's building it, and everyone's really excited. How's it going? Finally, he meets one of his friends. He says, well, what happened with the horse? He says, it was incredible. I really got the horse down to almost nothing. And then you're never going to believe what happened. The horse died. Right? And that's what happens when you keep lowering your expectations. The expectations are the fuel of life. You keep lowering your expectations, you only remove your motivation to the point where you can't move. Because this is the hard truth about disappointment. Imagine for a minute you own a big piece of land in Wisconsin, right? Or Texas, you live in Texas, right? You got this huge ranch, it's completely barren, and you want to build a gigantic forest. So the first thing you're going to have to do is you're going to have to plant seeds. But you know what happens when you plant seeds? What's the first thing the seeds do? Anyone know? Any farmers here? When you put seeds in the ground, right, the Talmud actually points this out. The seeds die, right? They rot. It's really incredible. In other words, disappointment is baked into what we call life. You can't avoid it. This is part of the system. In other words, if you want something, a great forest, you've first got to be disappointed, because when you're looking at those seeds and you're seeing they're rotting, if you didn't know any better, you think, well, this is going nowhere. But out of that death, out of that disappointment, as we saw with Conan, comes great opportunity, right? This is what a seed actually looks like when it's rotting. Take a look.
The piece is titled Clair de Lune, Light of the Moon. In the darkness of his eyes, and through the sweetness of his hands. When Patrick Hughes plays, it is the music of possibility and the sound of promise.
How would you describe your disabilities?
Not disabilities at all, more abilities.
Abilities everybody hears and sees at every Louisville football game. To understand how Patrick Hughes and his father became a two-person member of the Cardinal Marching Band, go back to when the music began. Born without eyes and with a tightening of the joints that prevents his limbs from ever straightening, Patrick has been blind and crippled from birth.
It's just countless the number of dreams that died, and my wife and I were devastated. We just asked, why us? We played by all the rules, we worked hard, we just didn't understand.
Kisses for Dad.
That heartbreak began to fade even before Patrick's first birthday, from his first moments at the family's piano in Louisville, Kentucky.
You could go up and hit a note no matter where it was on the piano, and within one or two tries he would find that exact note.
By his second birthday, he was playing requests.
Can you play You Are My Sunshine? Say Twinkle.
I was just ecstatic that, okay, we're not going to play baseball, but we're going to play music together, and that was really exciting. Let's see how far we can run with this.
Fitted with artificial eyes and placed in a wheelchair, as Patrick grew, so did his passion and his talent. He played old standards by grade school
We open up our hearts to safe cannonball.
and blues numbers by high school. By the time he arrived at the University of Louisville this year, his musical ability on piano as well as trumpet was well known throughout the city.
I said, Patrick, you need to be a part of the marching band. And their reaction was just a little bit of a pause.
My dad and I are hearing this and we're like, right. I mean, how in the heck am I supposed to march?
The next step was working out what we needed to make happen in order for Patrick to be involved in the marching band, other than just parking on the sidelines and playing his instrument.
I said, well, if Dr. Burns that impassioned about it and Patrick wants to do it, then by golly, I'll give it my all as well.
So it was decided Patrick would play and Dad would push. As part of the 214-member Louisville Marching Band, a blind and wheelchair-bound trumpet player and his able-bodied father do it all together. From the pre-game drill practice to the march around the stadium to the halftime performance in front of thousands. Dad rolls and rotates his son across the field in mostly perfect formation.
He'll sometimes end up pushing me a little quicker than normal, so that pretty much means, hey, must have done something wrong, so he's got to hurry up to get me to the right spot.
Dip. Spin.
In order to be at every band practice
I'm too slow on the spin.
and to sit beside his son in every class,
Question?
How do you come up with all the...
Patrick's father works the graveyard shift for UPS.
How would you describe a work day for your dad?
Poor thing. He goes to work about 11 o'clock at night, Monday through Thursday nights, and then gets in at about 6 and goes to bed at about 6 and sleeps till around 11.
By the time Patrick moves from his bed into his wheelchair each morning, Dad is ready to begin their day together.
He's my hero. I've told him before. What he goes through, it's taught me that I don't really have any complaints. I guess a father couldn't ask for any more than the relationship that I have with Patrick.
God made me blind and unable to walk. Big deal. He gave me the ability to, the musical gifts I have, and the great opportunity to meet new people.
That's your fans, buddy.
Maybe when they hear him play, they recognize, wow, you know, imagine the possibilities I didn't even consider when I saw this young man that I now know from hearing him play.
So whether it be on a field playing the Louisville Fight Song, or at the piano playing Clair de Lune, in a sense the melody is the same. Patrick Hughes plays so that we might hear the music of opportunity and the sound of potential.
Okay. So if you look up the dictionary of the word disappointment, right, you're going to see this guy's picture there, the father. Because in the world of disappointment, this is the epitome. Nothing more can describe the feeling of disappointment than that experience. Right? You can't outdo that. That's probably the worst kind of disappointment you can possibly ever imagine. But he goes through a transformation. The first is the seed dies. He says there, it's just countless the number of dreams that died. My wife and I were devastated, which is describing the feeling of disappointment. But then something interesting happens. Right? He starts to see the seed sprout. We're not going to play baseball. We're going to play music together. Let's see how far we can run with this. And then he gets the forest. A father couldn't ask for any more than the relationship I have with Patrick. The same idea that Conan said. And that's what happens with disappointment. The seed dies to make the forest. But what do most people do? When the seed dies, they give up. In this case, right, in Conan's case, they become, bartenders or run for public office or something like that. I don't know, right? If in this guy's case, in Hughes' case, he puts his kid would put his kid up for adoption. Or he becomes a workaholic. But he's having in other words, if his son would have been born a normal, regular kid, he would not have as great a life as he has now. And that's what Conan says, the same thing. Right? If you accept your misfortune and handle it right, your perceived failure can become a catalyst for profound reinvention, greater than you had before. And Conan is massive now, right? It is our failure to become our perceived ideal that ultimately defines us and makes us unique. Because the reality of disappointment is whatever it is you're trying to achieve in life, by the time you get there, it doesn't exist. In the world of stand-up, which Colin's talking about, like Johnny Carson wanted to be, the previous generation. He wanted to be Letterman. By the time he got there, that world did not exist, and he had to reinvent himself. We have to fail at what doesn't work to create and own what does. As I said to you before, right at the very beginning, all great people, all winners succeeded in unique ways, but they all thought the same way. Winston Churchill, success consists of going from failure to failure without the loss of enthusiasm. This is the whole trick. How do you handle disappointment? So let's sum up everything we've learned now, right? You cannot have a great life without great expectations. That's it. Thinking you can lower your expectations and shoot yourself into a great life does not exist. It's nonsense. It's a lie. Right? Lowering your expectations does not give you a better life. Lots of people try it. Right? Most people in the world, most of the people you're going to meet are trying to lower their expectations. And that's why they have all kinds of problems. Okay, so expectations equals attitude, which is your life. This is what we always said, right? Everything would be fine, but along comes disappointment, right? I hate when that happens, right? And you get knocked out, right? King Solomon said that a person falls 7 times in their lives, and it's just a matter of whether you get up. This is consistent with all human beings. Because out of the disappointment comes an opportunity. Remember that guy right at the very beginning, Matthew Jeffers? Right? Started us out, right? So the Ravens invited him and his mother to the Super Bowl that year, right? And they won the Super Bowl. Right? Life has nothing to do with what you get, only what you expect to get. You see, you could be 75 pounds, completely broke, destitute. All you own is the filthy rags on your back. Your entire family, all your network, friends have been murdered, and they come and tell you that your camp, Auschwitz, has been liberated and the Allies have won the war, and that day will be the best day of your life. Not because of anything you have, but because of what you expect to have. And that's the whole trick. Right? That's why people want to come to this country, because they expect it, and that's why they're excited, because the expectations is what makes their life great. The problem is when they get the great life, they don't expect anything anymore. So of all the things that make everything a winner think, it's how they think about tomorrow. That's the most important thing for you to build up. It's the thing you have most in your, bless you, as the most in your control. Because today is already in flow. You're not really controlling your day, you're just responding to whatever happens to you in the day. Yesterday's already happened. The only thing you can control is your future. Now, it's uncomfortable, but you can make your future as great as you want it to be. You just know that, like, if I really want to be like the President of the United States or be an astronaut, whatever, you know what it takes. But you can make your future as great as you want it to be. Yes, it's going to be filled with disappointment. That's absolutely true. But there's no other way to have a great life now. Again, this is how people who succeeded greatly in life thought, wherever the field they had. Right? Excuse the pun because it's Babe Ruth. Never allow the fear of striking out keep you from playing the game. See, he's looking at like all the other players, and they're mitigating their effort because they don't want to be disappointed when they try really hard. And he's saying, no, that's not the key to success. You've got to play like you're going to knock it out of the ballpark in every game. Now, you don't do that in every game, but that's how you have to play. Right? You see, this is the whole key. If we could sum up everything, we don't succeed because we are motivated. We are motivated because we know we're going to succeed. Right? In the world today, they sell these motivation drinks. You've probably seen them, right? In 7-Eleven and the checkout stand. Right? The guy who came up with this thing it literally became a billionaire. Right? It's mind-boggling, right? But it's complete nonsense because you can't bottle motivation. You don't get motivated. People think if I could be motivated, I could succeed. No, it's knowing you're going to succeed that gives you motivation. And I can easily prove it. If I said to you and I showed you the math and the science and everything, and there are people that do these kind of things, that I predicted the winning lottery number, right? Today's Wednesday, and it's going to be on a lottery, on a 7-Eleven, a ticket that's going to be sold in a 7-Eleven in Kansas City, right? This is the winning lottery number. And I showed it to you, and I showed you the stats, and you believed it. Right? There are people that do this kind of thing, by the way. They do it with the stock market as well. You trace a lot of an analyst, but I don't know how with a lottery they can do it, but they do it with the stock market. But anyway, I show you I hacked the system, completely legal. and you've got to buy the lottery tickets, $1.3 billion. But you're going to have to buy it from this 7-Eleven in Kansas City. And for whatever reason, right, you have to get there on roller skates. Right? But it's $1.3 billion. And you've got to buy the ticket by 8 a.m. on Sunday morning in the 7-Eleven in Kansas City. Right? Are you going to be there? Yes. Absolutely. Right? $1.3 billion. Right? You're going to get there. Right? As in, I would get there. Right? I don't care where you live. You could be in Australia. You're going to be there by 8 a.m. on Sunday morning. Right? You follow? Now, what if I said to you it's a 50-50 chance? You get it? As soon as I say that, you might get there. You're going to try, but, you know, it's hard, right? You can go to the 7-Eleven down the street from where you live, right? And you can buy a lottery ticket that has a $1.3 billion winning, but it's a 1 in 10 billion chance of winning. It was the more you mitigate the chances of winning, that number mitigates your motivation. So when you knew 100% you're going to win, you've got 100% motivation. When you divide it by 50, your motivation divides by 50. In other words, motivation doesn't produce success. It's knowing you're going to succeed that provides the motivation. Right? If you've seen the movie Apollo 13, it's a fantastic movie. You should all watch it. It's one of the cores. We're going to go into it more. But Gene Kranz, he doesn't say this in the movie. I saw him talk about this. He said when Apollo 13, if you don't know the history of it, it's a fantastic story. Right? They say it's NASA's greatest moment because they had 3 guys in a tin can 250,000 miles away, right? And they did not have on board what they needed to bring them back alive. See, every other mission, it was basically, Uncle Sam said, how much does it cost? We're writing the check. It didn't matter. They were just like, you need a bigger rocket, build a bigger rocket. 3 rockets, I don't care. They just needed to get the man on the moon and bring him back. But Apollo 13, they didn't have on board what they needed to bring these guys back. So Gene Kranz calls the whole team together, and these are PhDs, and they know it's impossible. And he stands in front of them, and he says, we are going to bring these boys home, and you need to know this, and you need to make sure everyone on your team knows it too. Because we're not losing a man on my watch, right? It's knowing you're going to succeed that creates the motivation. If he'd gone up there and said, well, I think there's a good shot, but you never know, it's really difficult, we'll try our best, it's not going to happen. Knowing you're not going to succeed is the key. So you have to build a future that you know is going to work. And this is how people who succeeded greatly in life do it. Roger Bannister becomes the first person to run the 4-minute mile in 1954. People have been trying for almost 100 years and no one could do it. There were some people who said it's impossible. Now what's incredible is that he announced to the world he was going to do it. No one had done it. And he says, I'm going to do it. How did he know? But what's even more incredible, was that me or you? Sorry. What's more incredible is within a year of him doing it, people were running faster than him. Now, you know what that means? It means they didn't just suddenly get the strength. What it means is that they could have done it before him.
Let me 1 second. right, we're good.
We're good?
Thank you.
So it means that those people could have done it before him. Why didn't they?
Yeah. Because they just didn't know what could happen, right?
They didn't think they could do it, even though they could. In other words, when you're running the 4-minute mile, right, I'll give you an idea. Do you know how fast you have to be running to run the 4-minute mile? An average of 15 miles an hour. If you have a treadmill, most home treadmills, the top speed is about 12 miles an hour. Right? That's the kind of speed I like to go at. I like the treadmill. So I get it running at 12 minutes, and then I really like the steep inclines. You know, like, right? I do that for about 20 minutes, and then I ramp it down to about 3 miles an hour and get it level, and that's when I get on. And then I call my wife and go, look at what I just did. It's like I'm exhausted. Oh, you need a nap. Relax a little bit. No, 15 miles an hour, right? That's incredible. I can't be on the treadmill, even top speed, 12 miles an hour. 15 miles an hour, just like it's mind-boggling. Then you got to do that for 4 minutes, right? So the guy who was doing it, right, in 4 minutes, 3 seconds, right, it's not like he's not working harder, but he does it in 3 minutes and 58 seconds, right? It's the same guy. It's just when Roger Bannister did it, all of a sudden they go, I can do it too. So knowing you can do it is what's going to make you able to do it. And that's the whole, and they asked Roger Bannister about this, and he said it was never a physical boundary. It was a mental one. I met somebody who ran the 4-minute mile in high school. It's something unthinkable in his day. So this is the whole idea. You see, we have, on this side of the gap, our lives which we think is predictable. The goals that we can have, and when people say to you, you have to lower your goals, you have to have what's called realistic goals, right? It's like a death trap. Your goal, if the more unrealistic your goals, the 4-minute mile goals you have in life, on the other side of the gap, the more alive you are. It's not mind the gap, it's live in the gap. The greater the gap between what you think you want and what you think you can achieve, realistically, bringing those 3 guys back, Conan, right? The guy with the sun, the more you live a goal of great goals that are not realistic, the greater your life is. Even if they don't succeed. It's not a question of what succeed, it's how you live. Because nothing can stop great expectations from making your life. It doesn't matter whether they win or not. I have a friend, he told me the story when he was in high school. He had a teacher who was a general at the time of Pearl Harbor. And he was on a boat in Pearl Harbor and he wakes up in the water, right? So this boat happened to be a long way out of the shore. So he starts swimming. He was a good swimmer and he keeps going, right? But eventually he runs out of steam and he can't do it anymore. So he said to himself, that's it, I can't swim any further. And he gives up. Right now, how do you know he didn't die? Don't answer all at once. He's telling the story. Very good. Someone's paying attention. I like that. Good. Right? He's telling the story. Right? So what happened? How come he didn't die? So he goes down about 6 inches and he touches the ocean floor. So he realizes he must be close. And he pushes himself back up and he says, forget this, I'm going to die on this close. So the question is, why did he give up in the first place? He didn't want to die, right? And he had enough energy to keep going. Proof is, right, he made it. In other words, they drop you off in the middle of the Atlantic. I don't care who you are. You're going to die. You can't swim that far. There is an upper limit to what a human being can do. I don't know what it is. I don't think anyone knows what it is. But there is an upper limit. He did not reach his upper limit. So why did he give up? Because he didn't believe he could make it. That's the whole key. You don't know what you can achieve when you believe it's going to be possible, when you believe we're going to bring these 3 guys back. The more you believe in your future, the greater motivation you have. And that's what it's all down to. If you don't have motivation, it's because you don't believe in the future. This is King Solomon. There are those who are rich but have nothing, and those who are poor but have everything. And that's our guy in Auschwitz, right? He's dirt poor, has nothing, but he has everything. Because if you have great expectations, you're having a great life. There's a fantastic movie you guys should watch. It's on Hulu, and it's called Born Rich. And it's made by the grandson of Johnson & Johnson. And Johnson, one of the Johnsons, so he set up a foundation, a trust fund for all his descendants. And this guy starts the movie, he says, tonight I become 21, and I will inherit from my grandfather, from his trust fund, more money than most people will ever make in their entire life. So he says, but it's known in my circles that it's not such a blessing. And he decides to make a movie showing what it's like, all these trust fund kids, what their lives are like. And it's got the Vanderbilts and the Bloomberg and all these famous people that you've heard about. And their lives are miserable. And they all say this. It's like, it's mind-boggling because they've got nothing to look forward to. They have no expectations out of life. And that's the whole key. You want to have a great life? You want to have a great attitude? You have to have great expectations. So remember I said to you right at the very beginning, right? What number is tomorrow? Okay, I want you to raise that number to at least 10. Do I hear a 10?
10, yes.
Okay, good. How about 15?
Yes, 15.
15, you're going to have 15 tomorrow?
Yeah. Yes.
Good, what about 20?
Yes.
Yeah, we're going to have that?
Yes.
If you think tomorrow's going to be a 20, right, you can't sleep tonight. But that's the way to live. Okay, so what did we learn? This is call 1. So I want you to think for a minute and write down one thing you learned from this session that you want to carry with you for the rest of your life. Okay, so what did we learn? Okay, attitude is king. That's the whole secret of everything. Having is nothing. It doesn't matter what your lifestyle is. Expecting is everything. Right? People are not unhappy. They're disappointed. You'll be very hard put to find anybody in America who's unhappy. Right? Most of the people, they're just disappointed. They're expecting something else. Expectations, high or low, are unstoppable. Beware the disappointment trap. Don't lower your expectations to think you can have a better life. Disappointment is inevitable. Right? That's just the way it's built. Great expectations equals great success. And disappointment is the gap. It's also the life. You just get used to it. That's the game. Okay, these are the next sessions. One is the game changer. After that is easy. If life isn't easy, you're not going to make it. If you're not driven, you're not going to make it either. And if you want to achieve great things, you have to have inspiration. Any questions?
Oh, this is great for me. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Lovely meeting you all. Is this time next week good for you all?
Here comes the sun. Here comes the sun. I said, it's alright.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah. Thank you.
Hi there. Any questions?
Not at the moment. I think it's great. I guess when's the next one?
Do you want to do the same time next week? Does that work for you guys?
Yeah, that works.
Yeah? All right, good. Looking forward. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, Rabbi.
Take care.
We'll call you. I think next week.
Okay, email me. We'll work out another day.
We'll find a day next week.
Okay, thanks, everyone. Nice meeting you all. Bye.
A estas horas.
Y Rebeca tiene juego de soccer ese mismo día.